And so with us now, we have a number of friends, and hopefully Judge Cox Arleo is also with us. I just also want to introduce someone who co-chairs our Women's Project. Nobody fights more for employment than this person, the great Linda Baraka. Linda, thank you so much for joining with us. Alasia, I'm really proud to introduce Alasia is our nurse navigator who does so many good things, and we're talking about healthcare. Tony Bolton. Tony, hey, my friend. Shanice, thank you. Carmini, thank you very much. And I'm gonna sort of try to keep quiet and turn it over to and Judge Arleo. Madeline, Federal District Court Judge. Hey, Judge. So this is the dynamic. This is, as Jacqueline, my daughter, youngest, tells me, this is about woman power. So we have Carmini, Shanice, and Tony, who are incredibly strong, powerful women. And then we have Alasia, who does our nurse navigator, Linda, who pounds us on women, employment, and Judge Arleo. So I'm going to sort of back off. And Lakeisha's joining us. This is my friend. God bless you, my daughter. And now I'm going to turn it over to Judge Arleo and to Linda and to Alasia. And I'm going to be quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, Federal District Court Judge, yada, yada, yada. I think the last Obama appointment, and Alasia and Linda, three friends, and the four women that are on this stage give me such courage and strength because of their story. Although Lakeisha is it's like having another daughter. All right, I'm going to keep quiet. Madeline, you're on.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. And I can't imagine a more fitting segue to this section on women in prison, a legacy of pain, than the lecture of Professor Haney. And unfortunately, we only have 40 minutes to share some stories and experiences and to offer hope for women in prison and incarcerated in New Jersey. And I like to think about how we're going to spend our 40 minutes. I like to hear from, at the end, for the hope section, to have Linda share with us some of her hopeful experiences and reforms through the NJRC with respect to employment, and our nurse navigator to also it's Aguirre, is it Alasia Aguirre? Am I saying your name right? Yes. Also to share with us some of your hopeful experiences and lessons working with NJRC. But I'd like to begin with asking the remaining women on our panel. I know that not everyone is here, but there's at least four of us here, to really focus on sharing, if you can, your experiences, your personal experience at Edna Mahan. And I'm going to hold everyone to ask about 4 minutes, so then we can end with our two NJRC panelists. But to share with your personal experience at Edna Mahan, and also following up on what we heard from Professor Haney, what should we be doing differently, and what kind of support do you need when you return? So why don't we begin? Who'd like to start?
I'll start.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lakeisha Jones, and I served 17 years, 9 months in Edna Mahan Correction Facility. And in the process of me going down and doing time, I was a little scared because I didn't know what I was entering into. It was like entering into the unknown. So my experience in Edna Mahan Correction Facility was like a nightmare. It was like the judge punished me, the officers punished me. It was like I was in a messed up situation. It was like I did something terrible, really terrible. But to just share my story with you guys, is like when I was when you enter inside this facility, you are entering into, it's like demonic. The officers is like, they come at you and they harass you and I'm not making any stories up, they beat you. And in 2002, 2006, the prison was supposed to be overcrowded. So they sent us to Trenton State Prison. It was 48 women, and everything is documented. And they sent us to Trenton State Prison. And in the process of them sending us to Trenton State Prison, because of I guess the Fed said that that the man was overpacked. So they tried to do like take us to Trenton State Prison in 1EE unit. And when we got there, it was like we had to strip in front of men officers. And when we would go to the doctors, we was on camera and the men could see us as the doctor was examining us. So we put in a lawsuit to get out of the facility, and the judge in Hunterdon County and Mercer County, the judge was like had compassion, and she remanded us back to Edinburgh Correction Facility. And in the process of us coming back to the facility, it was like the officers was upset that we was coming back to the facility, and they treated us harshly. It was crazy that they was just like so mean to us. They were
let me ask you a question. What about, how old were you at the time?
At the time I was 20, at the time I was 31.
Following up with Professor Haney, any services, anything that they did for you to prepare you for re-entering society again, anything?
In order for you to want to do good and into society, you have to do it yourself. Like the prison doesn't give you those type of programs to help you to return back into society. If you want change, you have to want it for yourself. So what I have done, I took up so many courses, like classes. I was into New Jersey STEP. Is a college class where you go and you earn your liberal arts degree. And they gave us the classes, and I was prepared to take college classes so I can use that degree when entering into society. But while I was in there, I was coming up with ways of helping the women with different, coming out here and being activists and being a voice for them, so that people in society can see what they really need in there. They need classes to rehabilitate them so they can't go back into that system again. When they leave, they come back and they use it as a revolving door, because I heard so many women saying that it's no help out there in the streets for housing, for jobs, for just to take care of their necessities. They had no help at all.
And what if you could give advice to someone who was going to reform Edna Mahan? Give me I want you all to think the top 3 things you would do to change it. Because I have thoughts too, but I want to hear what you think.
Wait, can you because I have my piece out my ear.
What would you do if you could give advice to someone in charge of fixing or changing for the better Edna Mahan, to make it a place that was more restorative than punitive, more life affirming than dehumanizing? What would you do to make it better for the next generation of women?
What would I do to make it better?
What would you recommend be done?
I would recommend for them to try to, when you do come out of that facility, I would recommend for them to try to get, hey Lalo, how you doing?
Hey,
Lalo?
how are you?
Fine. I would recommend for them to, when they come out, to get with good reentry programs that's going to lead them in the right direction. Because I was in this McGreevy program, and now I work for City Hall in Newark for the Mayor Ras Baraka. So he have an excellent program. And a lot of these reentry programs, everybody's saying that they don't work, but they do. They just have to try to gravitate to the ones that do work, the ones that's out there ready to help them. and not just like give up. Half the women just give up. They don't want to do the footwork. They feel like it's too hard, and being it's just like Stockholm. They so
right, because they've been traumatized and they've been broken and
they traumatized.
They've been pulled down, and it's hard to stand up again.
Yeah, but when I came home, I was diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety because I was so like stuck. Like I'm like, yo, should I go back to prison? But when I got with McGreevy and his reentry program, I see it was better opportunities out there for us. So it's just like for the women, I want to be their voice. I want to be their voice. I want to fight for them. I want to make sure that they need all what they need in prison. They're not getting everything that they need. They're not getting programs to stimulate their minds. They're not getting that type of help to even the smallest things like the sanitize stuff for their hygiene. They're not getting that. They're not getting none of that. So it's bad. Like it's really bad in there. I just want to be their voice.
Thank you. Let me just pause you for a moment because we have a lot of wonderful panelists today. Let me ask Shanice, same question. Just if you can share with us some of your experiences at Edna Mahan and how should things be done differently. And a topic I'd like to have everyone touch if they have a personal experience. How are pregnant women treated and how are transgender women treated? So I'm going to ask you that we'll come back to you. Lakeisha, thank you for your wonderful comments, but those are questions that I think are so important and fundamental to our persons as women. And I'd like to ask Shanice to really start the conversation. Continue.
Well, as far as transgender women, I was not around a lot of them, so I don't really know whom was or wasn't. However, I was offered a program where if we were able to show that we wanted to be rehabilitated and go back into society, we were given the chance by doing programs like a drug related program. Kind of like if you knew that you didn't want to be using or abusing, you can go to it's another tier and you will be able to be with groups of women, and they offered yoga, they offered different types of programs. Now, I was in Hudson, so this wasn't available at the time. I was still in the process of dealing with going downstate and stuff. I was still going back and forth to court, so they had me housed in Hudson instead of moving me all the way downstate and having to transport me back and forth. So that was one of the opportunities that was afforded to me. And with that, we had yoga and meditation. There was also something similar to NA or AA, but they didn't put it as a title because we were still in prison. And, that is a really, it's an open congregation to all women of all types of things. One of the main things that I heard Lakeisha, I believe her name was, who shared before me, pointed out was the availability of things that we do need coming back into the community. We need classes. A lot of the ladies who were in there didn't finish high school. They didn't know how to be women. They didn't, not how to be women, but be women in an active society because it was a revolving door. All they know is people before them going to jail, doing what they saw doing, and that's how they ended up in jail. Instead of trying to show these young ladies how to be productive citizens, they just put them back in jail. And then push them out. They don't teach them, oh, here, take a typing class, or here's a nursing book. Try reading this. It's small things that will help us women because we run this world. We are the world. We reproduce, we make things. We're the reason a lot of these things exist in this world. So instead of trying to teach and inform the women who are in jail, they just lock them up. Here's an hour of rec, or here's a few hours of rec. Instead of giving them books and stuff to do, they let them come out and then they push them back into cells. isolation is a really bad part of it. I went through a really hard time with the isolation. The person who shared before me mentioned she has PTSD. I went through that from experience prior to being in prison. I was imprisoned in my own mind. So it was worse when you put me in a jail cell with no one to be with or around. And yes, I have family whom came to visit me, but that didn't change the fact because we were behind a glass door. I wasn't able to give them hugs. I wasn't feeling as loved as I know I am today, but it was really hard. And so one thing that I learned is that my freedom is important and I love it. But if I didn't learn the things that I learned with reentry, I wouldn't have this remaining freedom. I would be back where I was in that jail cell. And it doesn't take an actual steel metal bars to be in a jail cell. All you have to do is have that stuck in your head.
Right.
I know plenty of women who have been in the system who are still entrapped in the system because they don't know how to grow from it because no one's teaching them.
Right. I hear you. I see Tony. Thank you, Shanice, for sharing some of your story. Tony, I see you nodding. Anything you'd like to share and add to this conversation?
Hi. So my name's Tony
Hey,
Bolton.
Tony.
Hi, Keisha. How are you? Hi, Lalu.
Hi.
I think it needs to start with, well, first and foremost, just like Keisha said, I too suffer from PTSD and anxiety. And like I have an 11-month-old right now, and it's so hard dealing with that on a day-to-day basis because just like Keisha said, we're not offered the basic necessities to evolve and to grow. I feel like there should be, like, yes, we come home and there's these reentry programs, but it should start within the prison. You know, it shouldn't be like we come home and we have to look for ourselves and find out through hearing through from a friend and just getting lucky of hearing through it through someone else. You know, no, everyone should be offered this from within the prison. You know, I also feel that, and if it was in my own hands, I don't feel like prison should be the first thing you send a woman to. I mean, but that's my own personal aspect of it. There's also situations where there's women who don't know how to be a woman. And what I mean by that is they weren't raised that way. You know, you have children who are going there, you know, when they're growing up in prison. So they don't know the basic things of how to take care of themselves and just how to be a lady in general. It doesn't matter if your sexual orientation or whatever, just how to be a woman and how to take care of yourself. Because you got to also keep in mind we're treated inhumanely with our sanitary needs. You know, you only get a certain amount of sanitary.
Yes.
It's so ridiculous. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And
You have to budget.
If men had menstrual cycles, it would be a different story.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Like who on this earth budgets how many pads they use a month or at a time? Like that's it blows my mind.
Tony, talk about how when you ask the officer for a roll of tissue or some sanitary napkins, they're mad at you and only give you one.
Absolutely. I mean, if they do,
definitely.
When you get your housing supplies, you got to give them 2 rolls back.
Right back.
So that's
exactly.
And I thought the state supplied this, and they tell us that it's their tax money that pay for this.
Exactly.
So they give you what they want to give you. So you have to roll up some tissue and put them in. Sorry, excuse my French. My English, you have to roll up tissue and put them in your underwear to make sure you don't, bleed on yourself. And it's sad.
That goes to the bigger point, which is dehumanizing women.
Yes.
That's we can all relate to the horror of that story. But it goes to the point that our professor made, Haney, about how these are all actions that do not build human beings. It devalues us. And that is an example of devaluing only women. Only women.
I was actually, I came from Union, came from different counties, but I was in Union County with a transgender who went to Clinton with me. Her name was Star. And I remember how they treated her. Like it doesn't matter what's in between your legs, whether you had a sex change, whatever, we're all human beings. and they treated her like she was like the most grotesque person on the face of the earth, and that's not okay.
But she's so sweet,
you know, because at the end of the day,
I mean, she had the
you know, we all have a heart. You know, we're all human beings, no matter of our charges. At the end of the day, we're still someone's daughter, someone's children, someone's mother, someone's aunt, someone's niece. We're still human beings. You know,
I was.
And here's another thing that
I say one thing for 1 second? I was working in the package house in Edinburgh Correction Facility, and I forgot her name. She changed from Trenton State Prison, and her name was Angelina, if I'm not mistaken, Angelina, and she's transgender. And I had to go through her things because we had to like separate what she can have and what she can't have. They punished her because they saw women panties in there. She's transgender. She's supposed to wear women's panties. She don't supposed to wear boxers.
Well, that's the one that was just abused.
Yes. So they treated her harshly. They treated her bad. They took all her things, all her books, all her personal items, and they just like threw them in the garbage.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to devaluing women.
Yeah. I feel like one more thing, and we'll move on to you can move on to other people. I also, because I've been helping a lot, just like Keisha. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to help the women who can't
definitely,
because we're their voices at the end of the day. We made it home, you know. And I second right along with Keisha. This is just what I want to do as well. But I think that something on the outside of the skirts needs to be passed. Like, they made a way for us to get jobs, but they didn't make a way for us to get housing. And a lot of us have issues with finding apartments because of our
So let me ask, is it I'm looking at Lalu is
Lalu.
What would you like to share some of your experiences and some of your suggestions for reform?
Sure. I was there for 10 years. I remember when I first got there, traumatized, you're terrified to death. And I asked the social worker, I was begging her for counseling, one-on-one counseling, because I couldn't understand what it is I was going through. And she lied to me and said that I have to be on psych meds just so I can get one-on-one counseling. And I believed her. So I suffered in silence for about 8 years before I finally got help. To battle that in that type of environment, it's very hard. I'm tearing up about it, just thinking about it. So it was, just a horrible, horrible time because you're reaching out for help and the help is not there. You should not have to be, medicated to get counseling.
Exactly.
I'm not on substance abuse, so they're telling you, okay, you should have said you was an alcoholic, you'll get more help. What about for us who's not on substance abuse, who needs the help? So we need more of that in there. I'm thankful that I was offered a job in what we call C Cottage, the mentally ill unit. And when I got there was when I opened up to the therapist and the head of the mental health department, and she was the one who pushed for me to get some counseling. So I finally got some deep counseling in 2018 after being there for so long, 8 years. And by then my mental state was really, really, not on par. I even got attacked by a schizophrenia girl carrying this scarf, for the rest of my life, where she grabbed me from the back and, hit me on the side of a windowsill that split my forehead. They had to glue it back together. Not only am I going through physical scar, but emotional scar, just every scar you could think about. And I was helping with the girls, bringing it to their attention, the concern of her not acting right, but nobody listens to you. They treat mentally ill people like they're crazy, and that's not right. So make a long story short, that I finally started to get the help, but then the help that I got was only an 8-week session. That was not enough. And then it was gone. It was taken away. It was just 8 weeks. That was it. You open Pandora's box for going through trauma upon trauma for myself, it's my whole childhood into my adulthood, into prison. So you just touch the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get the deep help that you should get. And I wish that could be changed, that they should have more of that. And for us to be listened to.
Definitely.
You know, we're not making it up.
And
we're not making it up. It is real.
Traumatizing.
Thank you for your very brave words. And to anyone who's out there that has any say or any ideas about reforming criminal justice, it has to start with mental health counseling at all levels of society.
For sure.
We do not treat people who are suffering from mental health issues with any kind of dignity in this country, and not just the more extreme mental health issues, but the everyday depression and trauma and anxiety that people, and especially women, feel through all stages of life. And I run a reentry court in the federal court. And what I've learned is the one thing we've tried to really, you live and learn. What you need is more social workers, more counselors. Everyone who comes out of prison, 90% of men and women have trauma that was exacerbated from what they came to prison with, and from the experience of prison. And if we're going to reenter, the good news is if you get access to those services when you come out, you can begin the healing process. And we talk about pain, and the answer to pain is healing. And we need to have a society that values healing. And we have I can't change what happens in Edna Maham, but I can tell you that people like Governor McGreevey are committed, and the wonderful people that he has around him, committed to healing, which is the real road to recovery. And that's, I know we still have another Ms. Dixon to go to, but I'd really like to turn over to Linda Baraka, because I think we're at a point where let's talk a little bit about healing, what you do with employment. And I know you've been such a resource to Governor McGreevey, speaks about you so fondly, and he's so grateful for all your help. So why don't you share with our audience what you're doing to help on the other side, on the healing side?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you to the panelists for sharing their story, right?
Not a problem.
It's always important to hear directly from people who have gone through these experiences, right? And it also humbles all of us, right? To hear from you directly. One of the things how I got started is that I did some surveys with some women that are involved with NJRC, and 3 things constantly kept coming up: healthcare, housing, and employment. Every single person that I spoke to, they brought up these 3 topics: healthcare, housing, and employment. And for me, I felt like if you had better employment, right? Like if you had a job where you were able to take care of yourself, those other 2 things could fall into place. Right?
Yeah.
Be able to get an apartment that you can afford. You would be able to have healthcare because your job would offer you healthcare. And so employment became a big factor for me. We can't send these women to prison and then when they come out say, okay, we won't hire you. And so for us as advocates through NJRC with Governor McGreevey, Cindy that works with him, and all of the women that are doing like employment at NJRC and across the state, what I think is important is for us to identify employers who are friendly to this population, right? So even if you don't have a criminal history, looking for a job is tough. Going to interviews is tough. Now imagine compound that with your experiences being in prison and then coming out and having to go to an interview just for someone to find out that you have a record or a history and then you're denied, right?
Rejection.
It's very heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking. And so what I think could be, would assist is to find employers who know already, these are the women, these women have a history. Are you friendly to this population? Can they do the job? Because at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Are you able to do the job? Can you trust us to do this job? You know, we served our time. We don't deserve to be penalized twice. And so for me, this employment aspect is really important. And so we've been working really hard with the Women's Commission, the Women's Project, NJRC, to try to identify employers who are friendly to this population so that once people return back into society here in New Jersey, they don't have to be compounded with that, because rejection affects your pride. It affects your pride. It affects your ability to come out positively into society, right? Then if you keep going on interviews and they're not even looking at you, you consider your past ways, and that's really a hard point for me. And so the employment is a really big aspect, and that's what we've been doing through NJRC and the Women's Commission and the Women's Project.
Thank you.
Cool.
And let me just ask I know Elijah has done so much coordinating healthcare, which Linda is one of the top 3 things that you talked about. Maybe Elijah could talk a little bit about what is going on in healthcare and what you're doing to support women in that field.
Sure, no problem. Hi, everyone. I want to start.
How you doing?
How are you? I want to start with thanking all of you for sharing your stories and experiences. I know that can be very difficult to relive and talk about. Here with NJRC, I'm the nurse navigator, so I'm really in charge of navigating any healthcare. As you all mentioned, the healthcare that you receive is little to none. You don't even receive products that you need on an everyday basis, which is very unfortunate. We are making it one of our goals to reach out and, give this information about healthcare to the Edna Mahan facility. We want to reach out and, leave them with brochures, leave them with information so that they do know and they're well aware that they have at least us to re-enter and help them with healthcare. With the NJRC, we actually have a women's project that we have going on, and it's a women supports group where we provide education, information. We have different providers come and speak to our women. Carmen, who's in this group, actually is in one of our groups, and she can attest to it too. She's been able to receive a lot of care, a lot of help, providers who are on top of her health care. We were able to get her appointments fairly quickly. So we're focused on that, focusing on annual examinations, whether it be your pap smears, your breast examinations, just all the healthcare that you don't receive in prison, which you, as you all mentioned, you very much should.
Thank you. Let me just turn over. So I know one panelist we haven't spoken from yet is Myra.
Yes.
Myra, we didn't forget you. I gotta worry. I gotta worry that Governor McGreevy is gonna cut us off soon. I'm not gonna let him. So I'm gonna let us go. Everyone has to speak and share with us their story. So if you could tell us a little about your personal experience and what should we be doing differently? How can we support you when women come out of incarceration?
Well, what I found is a lot of the staff isn't as attentive. What I mean by staff, thank God for the New Jersey Reentry program. I'm very, very grateful for this program, and I'm very grateful to a lot of workers, be it healthcare workers, be it social workers that can empathize. Mm-hmm. I found that there are a lot of people that are in this, I don't want to say industry, for lack of a better word, that are in this for the dollar. Not a lot of people are unable or just won't.
Non-willing.
Mm-hmm. We need more empathy in this community. We need more empathy. We need people to make it, at least make an attempt to see through our eyes. You understand? At least make an attempt. And I think that's the sensitivity level with a lot of case management and social workers in that arena, even in correctional facilities, don't empathize. They don't have the compassion, and I think that's a one thing that needs to be addressed. My story is a story of, deep scars, but what brought me to prison was abuse, and me having to defend myself. When I was arrested, I was 3 months pregnant. I had multiple contusions to my face and head, a broken rib. All right. When I made it to the hospital, the doctor asked me, he said, "Do you want us to have him arrested?" Why didn't I say yes? But I had no one to come talk to me and to show empathy, not sympathy, empathy, to give me my alternative. So once I was in there, I still didn't receive, I was handcuffed to a bed, to a hospital bed. Was only allowed to see my son. I had my son while I was locked up.
But tell me, Myra, share with me if you don't. It sounds like you had your son when you were incarcerated.
Yes, when I was incarcerated, and I was actually handcuffed to the bed.
Terrible.
The staff didn't have. There was no empathy. It was like, oh, like like I was a piece of meat,
like an animal.
It made me really feel bad. It did. I was handcuffed to the bed while having a C-section. How about that? Then a week later, when I returned back to prison, fortunately my family came and got my son. They had a DIFUS worker to come visit me in prison and ask me to give up my maternal rights.
Was there anyone there counseling you or giving you advice for you or for your son how to keep your son in your family? Was there anyone giving you that advice, or was it all about giving your son away?
No.
Sign your son over to the seat.
I mean, but they're trying to what they're trying to do now is open up a section in Edinburgh Correctional Facility so that the women that have kids can have their babies with them for a few years. I don't think that's a good idea for that.
Not in the prison
because there's too much abuse in there.
Traumatizing.
And it just oh my God,
too much violence, too many rapes that shouldn't.
I would not want a kid to be raised in Edinburgh Correctional Facility.
I would never want my son to be there.
It's very unhealthy.
Okay.
It's very unhealthy. It's very filthy. The prison is so messed up. So much mold.
Okay, I would love to speak on that.
I'm sorry, Lakeisha, let me just ask Myra, and thank you. Let me ask Myra to finish up.
Yeah. And what I'm basically saying is, we need more empathy in these social arenas, and in these help arenas for not just for women, but teens too. We need more help, and not to be so quick to how should I say it? To throw away the star in the apple. Because if you cut an apple sideways, there's a star inside of that apple. You get what I'm saying? Like there's some good. There's good in everyone.
In the core, yes, ma'am.
Some people you have to peel away the layers, but there's good in everyone, especially women who have been traumatized and a victim of the system. You know, like what victim of the system.
Victimized.
When the state hires people, when the state hires a specific person to do a specific thing, they should make sure that person has some more humanity than I'm just in it for a paycheck. You understand? I mean, be it welfare, be it DIFUS, be it the prison system, make sure that they're in it, be it the police, be it the correctional officers, social workers, however you have it. There are women that are really, really scarred and abused because we trusted a system that failed us because we had no other alternative. Some of us, like myself, have a wonderful family, that's a supportive family. My children are so supportive. I have friends. Like I gotta say, my mom Rose Nelson, so supportive. That's my role model. She's my mentor. You know, she like my mom. She's an awesome individual. She's been through it. She came through from trauma to triumph. You understand? She came from the welfare system to being a retired registered nurse right now. So perfect example. My daughter, Naya, my oldest daughter, Naya, my son, Paul, a few very good friends that have been in my corner through my trauma. You understand? Like I said, New Jersey Reentry Program. And it started with Judge Pratt. You know,
my friend,
which was a wonderful thing.
So let me just stop you for 1 second. Let me turn it back over to Governor McGreevy for any final thoughts and comments.
Yes.
Sure. Well, one, I just want to thank Linda. I want to thank Alasia. I want to thank Judge Arleo, Carmini. I want to thank Shanice. I want to thank Myra. I want to thank Tony. I even want to thank Lakeisha. Lakeisha will tell you who calls up Lakeisha to make sure. I want the First Lady of Newark to know that Lakeisha's on time for her job every day in the city of Newark.
Yes. Linda Baraka, I work for your husband. I work for your husband, and I'm at work.
I'm coming to see you, Lakeisha.
And so,
hey, I grew up with them. I grew up with them. I'm at work every day, all day.
Oh, Lakeisha, like, see, Judge, you get Lakeisha
We
the
need more
microphone,
programs
and
like that.
We'll be here to Easter and to Ramadan. But I just wanted to just say that 3 things that I just took away is that one is what Judge Arleo talked about, the trauma and the need for the respect of women. The second thing that what I heard Linda say is that it's obviously employment, it's housing, and it's healthcare, and creating that network so that women and Alasia, could you just share with what we're trying to do now with Edna Mahan?
Of course. So we're actually trying to get into the prison ourselves to give the information that we have about the services we provide for healthcare, employment, everything that we provide here at NJRC. If they're not able to let us in due to the pandemic, we have prepared brochures so that they can be given to the woman while they're at the facility and released from the facility, so that they at least have that information so that they can reconnect and it can be more helpful with them getting back into society.
Thank you. And I just want to thank, can we have a round of applause for Judge Arleo?
Hey. Thank you so much for this panel. This was amazing.
And
I appreciate being a part of it.
Wasn't this a great panel?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of the best I've been on.
It's nice to be heard. It's nice to be heard. That's one of the biggest things, is being heard.
And next year, ladies, we're going to be in person, and we're going to be the same panel. Governor, we're going to be in person. We're going to be at St. Peter's College. It's going to be good.
And in the meantime, I just asked you, and Sophia's here, and Linda's here, that we'll continue to invite you all to the Women's Project, where we provide for integrated healthcare. Linda's doing great things on LinkedIn in terms of making sure people are linked to jobs and professional career responsibilities, and whether it's Cisco certification for networking technology or our new reentry training center, it's having people working together. So with that, to Myra, to Tony, to Shanice, to Lakeisha, to Linda, to Carmini, to Alasia, and to Madeline, this is a blessing. You know, it's an old friend of mine, Pastor Hildebrand, used to tell me the story of on Good Friday, it was only strong women that were at the cross because the men were hiding. But I just want to lift up the strong women on this panel. So thank you very much.
Thank
Godspeed.